It started quietly, almost invisibly, on a crisp morning in May of 1962. The sun rose over Centralia, Pennsylvania, painting the rooftops in soft gold, smoke curling lazily from chimneys, children running to school, and shopkeepers unlocking their stores. To anyone looking from above, it was a picture-perfect coal town. Sturdy brick houses, well-kept lawns, the occasional dog barking in the yard. But beneath the surface, in the veins of the earth, something had awoken. An old coal seam, forgotten, abandoned, caught fire. At first it was just a whisper, a faint wisp of smoke slipping through a cracked sidewalk, a subtle warmth seeping into a basement floor, the kind of thing easily dismissed. Yet beneath these small signs, a hidden inferno began its slow, merciless march through the subterranean tunnels, setting the stage for a disaster that would erase a town from existence, almost without anyone noticing. By 1963, the signs could no longer be ignored. Residents began reporting smoke rising from manholes, the kind that curled in thin, ghostly spirals, and a faint, acrid smell of sulfur that lingered in the air. Some brushed it off as a quirk of nature, while others felt an unshakable unease. Streets began to buckle subtly, the asphalt heaving in waves like a living thing, and cracks appeared in basements and sidewalks. One family, the Millers, noticed that their dog would refuse to walk on certain parts of the street, its ears pinned back, tail tucked. They laughed it off at first, until the dog yelped and ran back one evening, its paws burned from a patch of glowing asphalt. That was the first warning for them, though for many in the town, it was just another strange anomaly in a life defined by coal, labor, and routine. The fire spread quietly but relentlessly. By 1965, local inspectors were called in, walking the streets with thermometers and probes, scratching their heads as readings spiked inexplicably. The heat emanating from the ground was enough to warp metal, crack concrete, and make it almost impossible to dig without the soil smoldering in their hands. Children continued to play in the streets, oblivious, their laughter ringing against houses that were slowly being undermined by forces they could not see. The first real tragedy struck in 1968. A 12-year-old boy named Tommy stepped off the sidewalk and into what appeared to be solid ground, until the asphalt gave way beneath him, collapsing into a steaming crater below. He survived, but with severe burns that marked him physically, and a fear that marked the town psychologically. Still, the news barely rippled beyond Centralia's borders. To the wider world, it was just another coal town, slowly fading into obscurity. By 1970, the town had begun to empty. Families who could afford it sold their homes to outsiders who rarely moved in. The local elementary school closed its doors, the church emptied, and the streets grew quieter, save for the occasional hiss of escaping smoke from cracks in the earth. Yet Centralia clung to life. A few stubborn residents refused to leave, claiming roots too deep to abandon. One man, Joseph Andrews, had lived there all his life. His family had worked the mines for generations, and he refused to sell his home despite the government's warnings. Every morning, he would walk down Locust Street, past rising smoke and cracking asphalt, his eyes fixed on the horizon, as if defying the fire beneath him. The Pennsylvania state government finally took notice in 1981. They offered buyouts, compensation to families willing to leave, and plans to condemn the remaining properties. Yet, even as streets were officially closed, some residents held on. One elderly couple, the Hancocks, refused to leave their brick house that had stood since 1923. They would sit on their porch, smoke curling from their chimney, as the ground groaned and buckled around them. By now, the roads were dangerous, the fire creeping closer with every passing day, creating sinkholes large enough to swallow cars whole. Yet the Hancocks remained, refusing to abandon the town that had defined their lives. The fire, however, was not content to wait. It moved beneath the earth like a predator, devouring coal seams, tunneling unpredictably, turning the streets into a treacherous maze. Homes collapsed without warning, sidewalks heaved and split. Smoke seeped into cellars, filling them with the scent of burning sulfur and ash. Tourists, thrill seekers, and curious locals began visiting, snapping photos of smoke rising from the streets like chimneys to an underground hell. Some disappeared temporarily, swallowed by sudden sinkholes, only to emerge hours later, shaken and scarred, whispering of heat that burned from the inside out, and an earth that seemed alive, aware and unrelenting. By 1990, Centralia had become almost entirely deserted. Interstate 61 bypassed the town, the traffic indifferent to the ghostly remnants of a community swallowed by fire. Mailboxes leaned on rusted posts, schools were razed, and churches reduced to charred skeletons. A few stubborn holdouts remained, but their numbers dwindled with each passing year. The roads were cracked, twisted, glowing faintly in the night, as if the town itself was breathing fire. The air hummed with an almost imperceptible vibration, a reminder that Centralia's destruction was not explosive, but slow, insidious, and complete. Even today, decades later, the echoes of Centralia linger. Tourists walk the empty streets, drawn to the surreal beauty of a town half erased, half preserved. Smoke still curls from manholes and fissures in the earth. The smell of sulfur hangs heavy in the air, clinging to hair, clothes, and memory. The ground hisses and groans underfoot, and beneath it all, the coal fire burns, relentless, invisible, unstoppable, a subterranean inferno that will continue for generations, outlasting the people who once called Centralia home. Walking through the town now, it's hard to imagine the life that once thrived here. Children's laughter, church bells, storefronts filled with chatter, all replaced by emptiness, smoke, and silence. The fire has no agenda, no malice, no intention other than to consume what lies above it. And yet, Centralia's story is mesmerizing, almost hypnotic, a testament to the power of nature quietly reclaiming human spaces. It's a reminder that the most extraordinary disasters often go unnoticed until the consequences are unavoidable, until the ground beneath your feet collapses, literally and metaphorically, leaving nothing behind but memory and smoke. Some of the holdouts remain even now, relics of stubbornness, memory, and attachment. They wander streets that no longer exist on modern maps, peering through empty windows, brushing ash from crumbling brick, feeling the heat from the fire beneath their feet. They speak of the town as if it were still alive, and, in a way, it is, alive with smoke, crackling asphalt, the sound of the ground settling, sighing, and groaning. For Centralia, there is no dramatic explosion, no one moment of catastrophe. Its destruction is quiet, creeping, poetic in its inevitability, a slow erasure by a force that cannot be stopped, bargained with, or ignored. Centralia exists now in fragments, photographs, newspaper clippings, the memories of those who once called it home. Yet the fire persists, a living scar on the earth, reminding anyone who ventures near that some disasters are invisible, some towns vanish without a single person noticing, and some flames burn not in wood or paper, but in the very bones of the earth itself. And so, the town that disappeared overnight, though it took decades to vanish completely, continues to whisper through the smoke, to warn through the cracks in the pavement, and to haunt those who dare to remember a place where life once thrived, only to be swallowed by the earth beneath their feet.